This podcast is brought to you by the Association for Coaching, the world's leading international professional body which is advancing coaching in business and society worldwide. My name is Maxine Bell, and I am delighted to introduce you to a new series, A Day in the Life of. These podcast episodes will be released between our longer themed podcast series that you're already used to. We've been interviewing coaches for a while now under the theme A Day in the Life of for our LinkedIn newsletter, and they were so well received we wanted to offer them to a broader audience. The interviews are with real, everyday coaches across the globe from all walks of life who join me to honestly and bravely share their journeys into coaching, how they coach and run their business, what they love and what their challenges are, as well as how they integrate self-care into their practice. It's a real honour to get a sneak peek into their lives, and we hope that listening to their stories will inspire, encourage and assist you, whatever stage of your coaching journey you are on. So happy to welcome today for our first podcast release of our Day in the Life series, a wonderful guest, Anita Sauvage. Welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be with you, Maxine.
Yeah, and thank you for coming today, because I know you've been unwell and you're on recovery, but it's lovely to have you here because you've got a wonderful story to share and a wonderful story about coaching to share and a lot of passion. So it's exciting.
Oh, thank you.
So let's start with a basic overview. Do you want to just give our listeners an overview of your coaching practice, what type of coaching you do?
Yes, so I'm an executive and career coach. I started my coaching journey 16 or 17 years ago. And at the time I was working for NHS Scotland, and I had an opportunity to be trained and become an internal coach. And then later on, I built my international coaching business. So today I coach people across 3 continents. That's one of the opportunities that COVID gave me, going from face-to-face to coaching my client virtually. And it has definitely opened my world of possibilities. But I'm also a post-cancer coach, and that's something that is very, very close to my heart.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that later, because that is definitely something I want to hear more about. So just briefly, just to give our listeners a little bit of history, what made you become a coach and what were you doing before that?
It's actually cancer that brought me to coaching in the first place. Because when I was diagnosed 17 years ago with cancer, I had plenty time to rethink what I wanted to do with my life and my business after the treatments. And at the time, you didn't really had this kind of opportunity of going with a coach. You could access therapy, counseling, and it was brilliant. It did really help me a lot. But coaching was really outside the support network of the charities or the association that are supporting patients and their family. So I looked elsewhere, and I had a friend who told me, oh, I know a great coach. So I went with that person, and that really helped me to think deeper about my future career. And that's how I just enjoyed the coaching process so much that I decided I wanted to become one. And when I went back to work, HR was looking for volunteers to be trained and become internal coaches. And I jumped on the opportunity. So that's how I started.
That was incredibly synchronistic, wasn't it? That
Yes.
just, you had that desire to become a coach, and then you managed to get coach training through work.
Yes.
Yeah, how wonderful. It's not uncommon. We are both cancer thrivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We post-cancer thrivers. And it's not uncommon, and I can relate to that it is a life-changing event. And I did the same thing, reflected a lot on what was I doing. So I really understand that deeply. And in many ways, that's the good side of having a life-threatening illness, is that it really does make you reflect on everything, your relationships, your work, how you care or don't care for yourself.
Oh, I agree. Sometimes when people ask me around it, they are surprised by my response, because I often say that this illness was actually a gift. And when you have not been through it, you can't really see it as a gift. But for me, that was a gift, because that allows me to pause really and to really go back to what was very important to me. But I think it's also a question of mindset. Either you can just, okay, we all go through the shock of being diagnosed. But once you start the treatment, you have two options, which is to let that illness take over control of your life, or you have the opportunity to see the positive in it and make something on these days where you can't go to work because you're too tired or it's too risky for you to be in contact with other people. So you have a lot of time on your side, and it's important to use it in a more constructive way. And that's exactly what I did. So for me, that was a gift, because before that, I had such a busy life. I was running everywhere, and I didn't really have time for myself. And I definitely didn't take a pause very often. So at least that was one of the gifts, which was to allow me to pause.
Yeah, you've kind of forced pause.
Yes.
It's not ideal that we have to get to that stage to pause. So for those listening, take that as a bit of advice. It's really important to slow down, isn't it, and reflect. And it takes you into some very deep reflections. You had a coach that helped you through that. Was there anything else that helped you through that, or was it mainly the coaching? I know that I read some books and things that helped me.
Well, I was spending quite a lot of time with Maggie's, because they were offering lots of options to try to manage the whole process. So I really enjoyed doing the art therapy with them. That was really that wee moment of joy where you don't care if you draw properly. What is important is really to enjoy the whole process. So art therapy helped me a lot. But that was also simply going over there, when I was feeling a bit down, I was just pushing the door of Maggie's and grab a cup of tea with other people in my situation. So I don't like the idea. Lots of people think sometimes, you create a club. No, it's not a club. But you go through these doors. Well, in my case, not Maggie's, but I know many other charities are doing it too. But you don't have to answer any question, or you don't have to manage, the way people behave in front of you, because they don't know how to do it. So I just feeling I can be myself. I don't need to worry about anything. I don't need to answer any question if I don't want to. So that was for me extremely important, to have that space where I could be myself, no matter what I was experiencing.
That's such an important thing for anybody that's had cancer, or whether they've had even sexual abuse. When you're in the room with people that have been through it, it's relaxing in a way. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to even tell your story. You all know that you're feeling certain things. And I've had a similar experience with something else, and it's just, you do feel like, I can relax, because other people, they don't mean to, but because they're not in your experience, they try and say the right thing, or there's lots of different emotions you're dealing with from other people, aren't you, when you've got something like cancer that's quite challenging?
Yes, I think, there is still such a fear around the word cancer. I know quite a few people who will still use the word, the big C. No, say it as it is, it's an illness. You have many different illnesses, and yes, it can be life-threatening, that's for sure. But hiding the words or hiding your feelings will not help actually managing the whole process.
Yeah, which is why it's great to talk about it so frankly today.
Yes.
Yeah. Just for our listeners, Maggie's is a charity that supports people who are going through cancer.
Yes, the Maggie Centers, it was actually created by Maggie, who had been through different cancer. And the last one, she just decided, I want to do something before I die. And she really spent a lot of time developing the idea of creating these houses, really very welcoming houses, near cancer treatment center or hospitals. And somewhere where people could just come and relax after their chemo or their appointment with their oncologist. They just went next door and they could feel at home. It's very comfortable and you have a garden. It's really a house, the kitchen, and it's really fantastic. And they have Maggie centers all across UK, quite a few of them. And it's a wonderful, wonderful support network, not only for the people who are going through cancer, but you can come with the family, you can come with your friends. So it's really open to everyone. And that's also what makes a big difference.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that about Maggie's. It sounds like a wonderful organisation. So hopefully maybe it'll be helpful to someone out there who's listening and check them out.
I hope so.
So can you explain to the listeners in a bit more detail about what post-cancer coaching involves?
Yeah, okay. So post-cancer coaching for me, it's to support people that are at the end of their treatment to take stock of their personal and emotional situation, often to reassess their needs too, or their wishes, and to try to bounce back. You know, when you have been in treatment for a month, or like in my case, for years, it's not surprising that you need to adjust. You've been controlled for a long time by hospital appointment, treatment, regular blood tests. And when you're in the middle of it, it's very difficult to plan anything else, even your holiday. And when you hear your oncologist telling you that your treatment is over, although it's a great news, you may not be equipped to handle it because it's not over for you. And even if the people around you behave as if you were back to the same old you are not, and you need time. So post-cancer coaching is also to give people time to recover physically from the treatment, time to trust their body again, also to get their energy back. But that's also time to recover emotionally. You need that space and that time to build or rebuild your self-confidence. Transform your doubts into self-confidence. You may also need to boost your self-image, your self-esteem, because some scars are visible, but others are not. So it's about learning to picture yourself free of cancer, free of treatments, not as a patient or a survivor. Because I do believe that it's important to not let cancer define who you are. It's part of your story, but you are much more than simply an illness. And to me, these steps are necessary to move forward. It's part of our recovery. It's about needs and what you may wish to look for the future. And you may not look at it the same way. Your view of the world may point in a different direction. It was the case for me. For some, it will be a need to rebalance their personal and professional life because they want more time for themselves. Sometimes it's about how to handle going back to work or completely change the way you do business and have a different purpose in mind. So every story is unique, and that's where I come as a post-cancer coach. It's to help them move forward, to see their future in a brighter light, to also learn how to voice their needs, and not only for themselves, but also for the people around them. So you can clarify and rebuild this foundation, and it will allow you to make your own choice and feel a lot more in control of your future. So that's how post-cancer coaching is defined in my view. Now, someone else can have a different view of it.
No, I agree with you. I wasn't lucky enough to have post-cancer coaching, but I definitely, years later, still have, I have side effects. I still have emotional scars, if you want to call them that. There's bits of your body that are never the same. It is a trauma in many ways to go through cancer, and the treatment is another level of trauma, as you know, Anita. So I think it's wonderful that there's people like yourself that have been through the experience themselves, so you know where that person's coming from, to give them that opportunity to have that space and rediscover themselves and their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm.
Thank you for that. That's really fantastic. But that is just one aspect of your coaching life.
Yes.
You have others. You also have a role with the Association for Coaching, don't you?
Yes, I actually now have two.
Oh,
Yes, because I took the role of a chair of Association for Coaching France. I can't even remember when, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. I can't even remember. I built a wee team that is absolutely fantastic, full of energy, full of good ideas. And the whole point was to try to build, not only to build the brand of Association for Coaching in France, because the other association may have been well established, but AC wasn't yet. So it's really to develop the brand of AC in France. But it's also to have a network of coaches who want to learn together and who understand or are struggling sometimes with the cultural differences. So we are here for that. And I'm very lucky because these ladies are absolutely amazing and do a lot to promote AC in France. So that's the first role. And the second, it's completely new, but I'm really excited to actually join the European Hub. So to develop actually a support network between different countries so we can also learn from each other and help establish even more AC in Europe.
So what do you think, if the other professional bodies are represented in France, what do you think the Association for Coaching can bring to France particularly?
For me, what I like with AC, and it's always been the reason why I made the choice, is that AC has this ability to believe that not one size fits all. So it's very open-minded in the way they are doing things, but also in the subject they offer, and it's what I really like is that everybody can find something in the AC that will fit their needs. It's not to say that it's not the case in the other association, but it's sometimes a bit too structured for my own taste. And I don't want to criticize because I think there is a place for all of us association. But it's what I like with AC is that openness, the co-coaching is something absolutely fantastic. We just finished a session an hour ago. But it's also a sense of belonging, feeling that you belong to something bigger, where everybody with their own needs and with their own minds, with their own wishes and their own view of the world can really get together and we can share and we can challenge each other. That's one thing that I really like in AC. And clearly having this represented in more and more countries nowadays, that means you bring also that cultural diversity that is so necessary to be able to bounce back from each other also.
And also just makes life so interesting and full as every different culture's got these wonderful gifts that it brings. So, I can see why coming together and doing the European Hub as well for you is important.
And I think it's right what you're saying because, it's also contributing to it. So you're not simply someone who is coming and taking something that is given to you. You have so many different ways also of contributing to the AC. And that's also for me the beauty of it.
And going back to France, what particular cultural kind of issues or things do you think is a challenge for the coaching profession in France?
The definition of coaching to start with.
Okay.
I experienced that in France, but in other countries too, on other countries. Sometimes the definition and the boundaries of coaching are not seen the same way, depending on the culture. And very often in France, and when I coach people in France, I will spend a lot more time contracting with them and spending a lot of more time understanding what coaching is or what it isn't. Because there is this idea, and lots of people will tell me, I thought you had also an advisory role as a coach. You will be here to give me some advice, some tips. So they see there is not a clear boundaries between coaching, mentoring, and advisory role. So it's about clarifying the definition for them. So that's the first thing that is really crucial when you coach in France. is making sure they understand what coaching is about.
Quite a core point, really, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. That's really interesting. So with all those different roles and different bits of coaching you do, what does your week look like?
Oh, what is my week looking like? I don't know if I have a typical week, because I think, you're right, I have different roles. So not one day is the same. But that's also what I like about my job, is that it's the diversity, it's the variety of things. And I will get up a morning and I will do some coaching or some talk about coaching or some talk about mental fitness. And the second day I will have a group coaching session, or I will meet with supervisor, or I will support a team doing a training. So it's completely different every day. And I guess that's also the reason why I went from being NHS internal coach and OD consultant to feeling I want more freedom to choose what I do. And that's the beauty of being on my own boss, is that it gives me lots of challenges too, but it gives me that opportunity to see lots of gifts everywhere. And one of them, it's about the way I can work and the fact that I don't have a routine. I have routine for my well-being, but I don't have a typical day. That's what I love, because it keeps you on your toes.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess it helps because you're obviously quite passionate about all the different things you do, and having had that major turning point with your illness, which you changed the whole trajectory of your life, you appreciate it even more as well, don't you? So it's wonderful. So you mentioned challenges. Would you like to tell the listeners what sort of challenges you have working for yourself and as a coach?
Quite a few. I think the biggest challenge that I know I'm not the only coach to experience, it's around mental health and wellness. And that includes most of my clients here, because the topic will come along at some point in the conversation, whether it's executive coaching or career coaching or post-cancer coaching. It's always been, in a way, at the heart of my work. But today I can see more and more of my clients expressing their issue around stress, around anxiety. Now, I'm not a therapist, and I made it clear at the beginning of the coaching relationship. But for example, there have been 2 occasions recently where, after having discussed with them, I advised them that coaching may not be their priority just now, and I refer to them to a therapist with their agreement, of course, because for me, I felt it was out of my remit. And at the end of the day, it's important to do what is best and what is right for your client. So I will spend more time maybe, or I will be more careful about being on the lookout for these signs and making sure the person is ready for coaching. The challenge, we have discussed it earlier, which is around cultural awareness. But although I gave the example of France, you have also, I work with clients in different countries, from India to USA to Africa. So it's about understanding that culture goes beyond a conversation. And if I coach someone in different country, it's important for me to adjust my communication style or my approach to their cultural background. So there will be a lot more research I will do before I coach someone, just to make sure I dress in the right way, or I address them in the right way, so it fits with their culture and mine. And the other challenge, and I come back again to post-cancer coaching, one thing that is crucial for me is that I will always keep in mind that their story is not mine. Because we are all different, we are all unique in the face of illness, and actually in the face of everything. But sometimes I have some client who will ask me, how was it for you? Or how did you manage this? And it's important we bounce back to them, because how I experience it is not really relevant. The way they will process it may be completely different to mine. So I will always keep an eye on myself when I do that. So that's I would say, the 3 biggest challenges I have.
Yeah, and as an organisation, the Association for Coaching, particularly this year, we've noted about the mental health things that coaches are coming up against. And I hosted a series, as you know, Anita, at the beginning of the year, exploring mental health. So for those listeners who'd like to know a little bit more about that, then do take a look at that podcast series. And also in November, we're having a conference on mental health and well-being for coaches.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
So if you can't see Anita's very enthusiastic face there, but yeah, so that's going to be great because then people get the chance to ask questions and bring up their different issues and the different talks that will happen during that conference. So we'll put the links in the show notes to the conference and to that podcast series and to Maggie's as well, Anita. We can put all those into the show notes. So that'll be good. So you've mentioned obviously well-being an awful lot. What well-being practices do you do? How do you take care of yourself? Because you offer a lot of support to a lot of different people in many ways.
Yeah, it's extremely important to take care of myself. One thing I've learned over the years, and something I practice more and more, is to be able to take pauses and listen to myself. You know, it's particularly when you have your own business, it could be very easy to just spend your own day at your desk or with clients, forget to eat sometimes or do things like that. But it's not really very good for you, let's be clear. So I will be very careful about pausing. It's what I call my oxygen mask. You know? How can I help other people if I can't breathe myself, like in a flight? So there are moments where I will be very aware of what's happening to me, even physically, you know, a bit of tension in my neck, feeling really tired, or, you know, it's time to pause. I will pause. I will not start to listen to my inner voice, my weak Cruella voice, as I call it, that will tell me, oh, no, you can do another 10 minutes. You don't have the time. No, I will always pause. And pause for me, it's not automatically spending half an hour going for a walk. That can be also spending just a few minutes observing something in front of me and, immersing myself in that visual or concentrating on my breathing. That can be also about the sound. I will listen to the sound and concentrate on it. Just to get a wee pause and to also ground myself. So I do that quite a lot during my day. For me, it's really important to put that oxygen mask constantly because that's how you regenerate your energy too. So pause, it's the biggest thing for me every day.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just remembering that you've been sat at your desk for 2 hours and it's time to get up and have a wiggle or get a drink or do something like that. Look away from your computer screen, look out the window even. It's all these little moments that you need to grab, isn't it?
That's a very good point also, you know, when I do this pause, I'm not looking at my computer. I switch off my phone. And actually, I started to do that more often. You know, if I take a break at lunchtime, what do? We take our phone and we start looking. No, I don't. I will now switch off the phone. So I'm not tempted. Because clearly we can't be of service 24 hours a day or even 12 hours a day. I do believe that if you're not looking after yourself, the way you will serve people will not be as good. Because you will be tired, because you will have your own challenges to deal with. And if you're not aware of what's happening to you, how can you be really present with your clients?
Yes, I've had burnout, so I can speak for that. You can even start getting angry at the people you're serving sometimes, can't you?
Mm.
You know, when you've got nothing left in your own tank, you have to really, really be careful of that. So it's about watching for those signs early on and actually preventing them even getting to that point. So it's really, really important. So thank you for mentioning that. I was just wondering, Anita, you've shared an awful lot. Is there anything that you particularly wanted to say to coaches out there? Because we're trying to make this series very real and relatable. No shiny sort of coats on it about everyday coaching life, the rewards and the challenges. Have you got any sort of pearls of wisdom or tips you'd like to give coaches out there?
Well, there are two I can think of, two that are really important to me. The first one is about knowing yourself, you know, observing what's happening to you without judging yourself. Sometimes, even when you coach, you know, even in the middle of a coaching session, you suddenly receive a message that will connect with our emotion more than we expected. So it's important to acknowledge it. And in some cases, I will share it with the person I coach because it could be disruptive if I don't, for both of us. So knowing yourself, knowing what's happening is very important. My biggest learning in terms of coaching, it's about silence. It's let silence in a coaching session do the work for you in a way. It's a fabulous tool. And as humans, if we are not careful, we tend to want to fill the silence more quickly. But I learned that silence is the best tool ever. It's amazing how people will reflect even more in the silence. And it's the same also for yourself. You can take also pause and let it be silence. It will bring a lot of things. You will discover a lot more. And I do believe it opens up also the imagination. And people need that space to breathe and to be able to see even more of it. So silence is my biggest tool ever, I think.
No, it's a wonderful tip because humans, we're not machines. You don't just press a button and an answer is pumped out. We need time to process. And particularly in a coaching session where, as the coach, you may have asked a question that they've never been asked before. And you need time to sit with that sometimes, don't you? You need to tune into how you really feel about something. It's not always instant. And offering silence to yourself, I love that idea too. So what you're gifting your clients, you're also gifting yourself for that reflection. Just on the point of both those points really, with the self-awareness and with giving silence to yourself, how important do you think it is to have a supervisor or to have a coach yourself that you can talk to?
Supervision, it's really crucial for me. I've always had a supervisor since I started to train as a coach and then coach people. I think for me, it's not only someone who, if I have an issue, I will turn to discuss it. It's someone who will help me see also the great things that are happening in my coaching session. I think at the beginning, I was seeing supervision as if I have an ethical dilemma, I will go to my supervisor. But it's far more than that. It's also to see that we build moment where what is it that happened? What did I do in that moment to allow this person to have that light bulb moment? So it's also focusing on what you're doing really well and learn also of that. Now, at the moment, I do also group supervision. And it's something that is new to me. Well, I've done it now for a year. And I find that fascinating because not only you learn for yourself, you learn from yourself, but you also learn from other people and the supervisor. So I found the dynamic absolutely amazing. And I see it almost as it's like the co-coaching, where you will have a role of coach, a role of coachee, a role of observer, and you will learn from all of it. And in a group supervision, that's the same. You learn from the whole, not only for yourself, but you learn from the whole process, even listening to other people. But for me, it's crucial. It's part of your continuous development. And it's really a fabulous tool to help you grow as a coach and to help you reflect on your practice. I can't imagine not having one, actually.
It's almost hypocritical in a way not to have somebody, isn't it? Because you're inviting people in as a coach for them to self-reflect. And as you say, holding that space, you have to be aware of yourself and your own triggers and all those things. So it's very important. And it's great that you mentioned group coaching because that's often a more affordable thing, particularly for coaches starting out, besides a wealth of experience and knowledge that comes into the group. So it's really, really great to hear you say that. Is there any last thing you'd like to say before we close?
Join the Association for Coaching, please. I think for me, as long as you know your whys, why do you want to become a coach or why are you a coach? When someone knows their whys, it becomes easier to find their path. And that's what happened to me. And it will feel less scary to deal with uncertainty. Life is about not knowing. And as a coach, you don't look for perfection. But if you know why you're doing it, and if you have that passion in you, you will do a great job as a coach. So it's about believing in yourself. Don't hesitate to believe in yourself. It's crucial, and that's what will make you a fantastic coach.
Thank you, Anita. And just so everybody knows, not everybody I'm going to interview for this series is from the Association for Coaching, but it is your passion, isn't it, Anita? And you're just being really honest about how you feel.
Yes, exactly.
And your own experience. And it's wonderful to hear that, from the point of view of everyone involved in the AC. It's lovely to hear your real experience and all the things you're contributing to the coaching community. You come with real passion. And thanks for your vulnerability today in talking about the cancer. That's really brave, but I know a strong motivation for you wanting to share with me as well. So
thank you for your honesty and your openness too, Maxine.
Well, we both know that not everyone wants to even mention the word cancer. So I think it was important that we spoke really frankly and make it more kind of an okay thing to chat about and not feel uncomfortable about. So it's been really one of the gifts of this conversation. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. It's been wonderful. I've had a lovely conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine.
Thank you for listening to another podcast by the Association for Coaching. For over 20 years, our purpose has been to inspire and champion coaching excellence, advance the coaching profession, and make a sustainable difference to individuals, organisations and society. To find out more about the AC and our member benefits, follow us on LinkedIn or visit our webpage at associationforcoaching.com. Explore our digital learning hub and enjoy our extensive library of on-demand webinars, signature programs, member benefits, interviews, podcasts, and a portfolio of live events featuring thought leadership, tools, models, and the latest industry trends to help you develop your coaching expertise.